It must be Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of My Way, conversations with entrepreneurs doing business outside the box. Super excited to be with you for another episode this evening. And I have a very special guest coming up that I am pumped about because we met quite some time ago now. And there's nothing I enjoy more than meeting a person under the circumstances that we are diving headfirst into very deep conversation. And it was just one of those things that I feel like you really get to know somebody. And I said, this person is absolutely my cup of tea, and I've got to find a way to fit him in on the network. You may have seen him already, actually. He has appeared a few times on Divine DNA with the Jacksons on Wednesday evening. He is a former MMA fighter turned business owner, helping entrepreneurs build a successful business that produces amazing results. So I'm really excited to welcome to the show Clifford Starks. Welcome, Clifford.
That was as cool as you said it was going to be. I
Right?
really like that intro. Yeah.
It's
That was awesome.
glitter, and then there you are. It's perfection.
I love it. I love it.
I'm so glad to finally have you on the show because, like I said, I really enjoyed we met on Michelle Risa, who was actually our very first guest of My Way this season.
Oh,
and
nice.
On one of her conversation Zoom calls that she has, and it was a very deep conversation. And then, you know, when we got to talk one-on-one, clearly we had nothing to talk about.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, really good, really good. Well, I want to obviously the show is about how you're doing business and doing business your way, but I want to give everybody a little bit of background because I mentioned that you were an MMA fighter. So how do you go from that to helping entrepreneurs? Like, is there some crossover happening here or what?
Yeah, so I said it what I've learned in my journey, and it's from really looking backwards, because I'm an action taker. I'm just going to go take the action, and it always feels like it's simpler than it really is, right? You
Right.
go through it and you're like, oh crap, this was harder than I thought it was going to be. But as you start looking back, you start seeing some of the patterns.
Mm.
And one of those patterns I saw, I'm like, wait a minute, it's all the same thing. So
Mm.
fighting and entrepreneurship, it's way more the same than it is different for people. And I actually had a conversation with one guy saying, like, well, in fighting, you're punching each other in the face. Like, you're not collaborating, you're fighting. And I
Yeah.
go, well, it depends on how you look at it. Because to two
Mm.
fighters, a good fight is a fight that the people who are watching absolutely love seeing, win, lose, or draw. You know, you're not always going to have the best game plan, and you're not going to have the best strategy or not even the best performance. But
Right.
the goal is to perform at your highest level, and you openly respect each other for going out there to perform at your highest level and give the audience a great show.
I love that. I love that. Well, I mean, and I think, you know, as a fighter, the fighters, like, you guys respect each other behind the scenes for the most part, right? Like, it's not like, I know even like with wrestling and some of this other stuff that we see, it's at the end of the day, I mean, yes, you're fighting, but it's performance, a lot of that angst,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
please tell me that that's how it
Well,
is.
I'll tell you this, just as you said, for the most part. And I say yes, for the most part. And the same thing's true with entrepreneurship. Because there's
Right.
entrepreneurs out there who you don't want to do business with ever again. You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
So going through that process, it's yeah, the principles and the philosophies, they're the same. They're the exact
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, I love that. Mr. Jackson, speaking of which, is saying the king is in the building. It's happening.
Oh,
Happening.
Donnell in the house.
Yes. And I will return your phone call, sir, by the way, while I get to that. But yeah, so I can see that now. Like, I think there's many things where many times when we make a shift in our business, or the work that we're doing in the world, and we think, gosh, how did I get from here to there? But when we look back, there really are those similarities. Do you find that you are at your core like the same person? Do you hold the same values now that you did when you were fighting?
Yeah, well, it's funny. The identity hasn't shifted, and in fact, I had to get stronger in what my identity was.
Mm,
What I mean by this is when I told my coach that I wanted to fight in the UFC in less than a year, he thought I was out of my mind. He thought I was crazy. And n- I proved him wrong and right at the same time because
mm,
he was in my corner to the end. I go, Coach, we got to at least try. And he did. You know, he put in the effort. I put in the effort. And after 5 weeks, he was like, holy crap, we might be able to pull this one off. And we ended
yeah.
up pulling it off and doing it. And I say I had to refine my identity because when I got into entrepreneurship, I had people telling me how easy it was, and that
Mm,
was messing with my head. Like it was really messing with my head because anything new is going to be hard. It's going to be hard at first. Even if it's quote unquote simple, you're not used to it. If you were
right.
used to it, you'd be doing it already.
Hmm.
And so I was getting really, really frustrated and like, well, what am I doing wrong? I must be doing something wrong because people are telling me how easy it was.
Right.
And then when someone finally told me, no, this is hard when you first start, it felt real again. It felt like the
Mm,
fight because fighting is hard until it gets easier. You know, you learn
right.
the techniques, you learn the skill sets, you learn the abilities. Entrepreneurship is much the same thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when people hear that something's going to be hard, that fear kicks in
Hmm.
and the doubt in themselves and being because they haven't done what they're doing before. So they're nervous, they're scared. And I think that that can hold you back. And but I love what you're saying that someone saying that it's easy held you back. And I've experienced something similar. There's a lot of people that have come to me saying, I want to host a show.
Hmm.
And they expect me to be like everyone else and say, absolutely, everyone can do it. Everyone that has a business should have a podcast. And they want me to be like this talking head. Whereas I've told people no. I'm like, listen, I don't think you're ready. I don't think you, I mean, ultimately you have to figure that out. But
Hmm.
I'm not a yes person. I'm not going to, it's because it's not as easy. You have to, especially if it's a podcast platform or something recorded, you have to edit, you have to
Hmm.
find guests, you have to advertise. There's a whole picture of
Yeah.
things that have to be done. And so they expect me to be like the other coaches and say, oh, yes, you should just go do it. I'm like, let's talk about this first. Like, let's talk
Yeah.
about what you have going on and everything else. So, do you find you said you had to be more clear about, who you were? Do you find that was a necessity in order for you to do business your way, like to do things how you wanted? You had to get to know yourself better first.
Yeah. I knew myself really, really well because
Hmm.
I've done a lot of reflection. But the thing is, when you know yourself so well, you don't know what people need to hear to actually take
Mm,
action to work with you. And so, me knowing, like, look, I know there's a kind person in everybody. I know
yeah.
they have extreme empathy and extreme courage and extreme power. They all have
Hmm.
it in them. And in knowing that, it was almost like I didn't have to present that because I already know that. But but there's a reason why people get stuck, and that's where I was like, holy crap, it really is in our mind. It's always in our mind. And so the thing that I was missing or lacking at the time with people telling me how easy it was I just didn't have the proper leadership.
Mm,
Because a leader knows when to push you and when to step back, when to tell you it's easy and when to tell you it's hard, when to get you to take the steps forward and build the traction that you need to build traction. And great leadership takes sitting there and asking great, great questions, knowing
mm,
where they're at on their journey and why they're where they're at on their journey to move them forward.
yeah. I love that, and you just really sparked something within me in that as well, where I am, for the most part, people know me as a very nice person. Like I'm kind. Like I really can be. I mean, I can cut up But for
Mhm.
the most part, I tend to be like, especially in my work, I tend to be a little more soft spoken at first, like
Mhm.
till you get to know me, we warm it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think sometimes I'm so focused on that part of who I am that I don't allow the no BS Jessica to be seen right out of the gate. So there's
Mhm.
a mismatch that happens, especially early on when I was taken. Mr. Jackson, don't you start. Um, Mr. Jackson's on that I know her now face. But like but I think that there's a mismatch that happens because especially early on when I was mentoring and coaching, like I didn't allow that no BS Jessica, that ask good questions and really push you Jessica to be seen. And so when
Yeah.
they would get that, they would be like, who is this now? Like
Mhm.
I don't know. So it's, for me, I'm still like learning that balance of being completely authentic right out of the gate and going, yes, I'm nice and I'm kind, but I will tell you, Mr. Jackson, to get your shit together.
Well, what I want to say is, um, you are perfect and imperfect all at the same time.
Mm,
It's just a moment,
right.
right? So we're living on moment by moment basis. I'll give you an example. You connecting me with Donnell, the guy's
Mm,
absolutely amazing, and I knew the odds of the relationship being amazing were very, very high. Well, why
mm.
did I know it? Because I connected with you, and I knew you weren't going to
Yay.
connect me to, like, oh, well, let me connect them to this dirtbag, right? No,
Yeah.
you're going to connect me to good people, right? Good people who are of resonance. And so I started looking
Yes.
at
Yes.
understanding mastery the best that I could.
Mm,
I'm like, oh, mastery is a game of time and timing. You get better with your timing as you go through time from just doing the best that you can in the moment
right.
that you're doing it. And the more that you do it, the better you become with your timing. So
Mm.
people aren't waking up saying, like, man, how can I screw such and such over? Ooh, I know. You know what I mean? Like, they're going through their process.
If that's
And
you, you're watching the wrong show.
yeah, yeah, their timing is just terrible. Some people
Right.
just have terrible
Right.
timing. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to whiff. I want to hit the home run right out of the gate. Well,
Mm,
in order to get the home run, you got to swing.
mm,
And in life, great leadership is allowing a person to swing and looking at the risk reward aspects of it and knowing, like, okay, this isn't too risky and it's got better reward. There's better return on this process. So when you do swing, you're not going to pop a rib or hurt something or hit someone in the head. You're just going to swing and miss and get better at swinging and get
yeah.
that sweet spot eventually.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great analogy. Angelique is saying hello as well down there
Hey,
in the
Angelique.
comments. You gotta have they
I
come as
can't
a
see you
pair.
guys. That's why I'm
Those-
not saying anything.
They come
Oh,
as a
uh,
pair. There she is. They
they
come
do
as a
come
pair.
as a pair. That's what I
They
love
do.
about them. They come strong.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, I love that. How now I know you're a dad too.
Mhm.
And so does does your experience as a fighter and experience now as an entrepreneur, does that go into dadhood? Like how does that all fit together now? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything comes down to how you're showing up. So,
Yeah.
um, one thing that I learned about myself, I didn't realize it. Again, looking backwards,
Yeah.
everything has a context to it. So depending on what the context is what you're moving towards, right?
Mm,
So there's a Clifford Starks who's outside of the cage. There's a Clifford Starks inside of the cage. And then there's a Clifford Starks who's leaving the cage. And then you ask, okay, under what context are you showing up? And as a father, I want to be able to show up as the highest level for my kids, at the highest level. And that's the same person who's stepping outside of the cage, inside of the cage, and back out of the cage. Again, it's just saying, can I show up with discipline? And they will test it. They're very, very good at testing your discipline.
mm,
And I like to pass the test. And if I don't pass the test, I have had an opportunity to pass the test because I get to look at it and say, how do I fix this or how do I make this better so that I can show up better the next time?
Mm. That's so true. And listen, no, there's no, we were talking a little bit before the show about, people like to give advice and everything else, but truly there's no manual and there's no advice that's going to be one size fits all across the board. Every child is so different. Every parent child relationship is so different. And so it's truly an experience of learning as you go. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
gotta sink or swim time, Cliff. Like,
Yeah. 100%. And I tell, so I talk with Tyson, who's my oldest. He's 6. And I'm going to have these conversations with Titus as he gets older. And I'll ask him, hey, what made your day amazing today? Because sometimes we don't know, and we don't know to even ask those questions.
yeah,
We just go into an assumption of, oh, they must have had a lot of fun here. Like, no, I want to know what he thinks made his
yeah,
day fun and why it made it fun. And I also want to remind him, like, all right, I'm going to be the best dad, and you be the best son that you can be today. Sound like a plan? Sounds like a plan. And everything starts with how you present things on your journey. I just presented in a very positive, inspirational light. And even when I am correcting him or disciplining him, because that's part of the process too, I let him know why I did what I did. I don't just do it just to do it. And he has no idea. He just knows not to do that. But I want to give him a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing.
yeah. Yeah, I mean those conversations are so important, and I would give you a little snippet for your future with
Hmm.
teenage children, because it's coming whether you like
Yeah.
it or not. But I will say, even in those moments when they get older and they're starting to tune it out a little bit, and they're
Hmm.
starting to, maybe not be as receptive to these positive vibes that we're trying to put out there as parents, I would say to future Clifford, like, you're still doing an amazing job. Like, you're
Yeah.
holding it down. You're being an amazing dad. And I think it all, like, when they become an adult, like, now I'm starting to hit that world a little bit, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, oh God. But I think, you do start to, like we were talking about, you do start to see the pieces of the puzzle for that foundation that you laid early on kind of coming together. With
Hmm.
that laying of the foundation and kind of seeing it pay off later, that has been a challenging part of me in business as well, of, like, doing things and going through the motions and going, like, it's going to pay off later, and having that patience, because the stork forgot that when he dropped me off, the patience part of this. Has that been a challenge for you at all in your business, that patience of allowing your business to kind of blossom and grow, and you as a business person as well?
Yeah. I think it's a challenge for everybody to different extents and levels.
Yeah.
And ultimately, hey Brittany, okay, I can see the comments now. Cool. Um, so one thing that I've realized going on my journey is everyone gets to hold up a mirror for us. Like
Mm,
that's the name of the game. And in holding up the mirror, they're helping us with our patience, they're helping us with our persistence, they're helping us with our confidence, they're helping us with our encouragement, they're helping us step back, they're helping us lean forward when we have to. They're helping us in some way, form, or fashion. And so when we get very internal and intentional with what it is that we want, um, the world's really working for us all the time.
mm,
And we just have to be willing to look for those signs. And when we can see those signs, we see them clearer and clearer when we're looking for them. But yeah, like I agree with you. I don't know what's going to happen when they're teenagers. I've heard the story from a lot of people, and ultimately, one thing I do really good at is I train mindfulness. I think
yeah.
mindfulness is a very important thing. What's interesting, even on a sales front, people don't train for mindfulness. They train for the result that mindfulness gives them. So
Right.
the result is, can I be calm and cool under pressure? Can I be there for someone even when I don't want to be there for someone? Because that can be your kids too. If people are giving you a lot of pressure and you're getting frustrated and freaked out, who are you going to show up as?
Right.
Jim Rohn has this powerful quote that I absolutely love, and I share it with myself, and I share it so I can be the person that I'm meant to be, so I can show up in the way that I'm meant to show up. And it's, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better.
Mm, that's amazing. That's amazing. And it can be challenging for us the in the conflict, in the challenge, like to know that things will get better, to have that like positive mindset moving forward, especially like sometimes it is on just the reflection and you have to look back and go, well, I learned something there. I wasn't feeling it in the moment, but there was definitely something there that I
Yeah,
learned and something positive that I can take from the situation.
yeah.
What do you feel like has been maybe one or two of your biggest lessons that you've learned as an entrepreneur so far?
That it's always simpler than we make it.
Mm,
So even the people who are saying, "Oh, it's so easy," it was easy because it was easy for them. Like that was in their mind. That was their frame of mind, but they weren't coming to my level,
right.
right? That wasn't their fault. It is what it is. I say ultimately all I can do is take responsibility on me. So I got to look within. It was a great lesson for me because I got to see that, okay, when things start getting easy for me just telling people that it's easy instead of listening to them and figuring out where they're at, that might be actually giving them less traction than more.
Right.
So the two biggest lessons that I learned, and we're getting a healthy dose of it right now in our
Mm,
society, is courage and empathy. Those are two muscles that I'm consistently strengthening and growing because I know if I can have the courage to stand for my beliefs, to stand for my wants, to stand for my desires, but also the empathy to understand others and understand their wants and their desires and their whys, um, we become better because of it.
mm. Listening, I think is so important, and being comfortable with the silence sometimes in waiting for an answer. I did an entire episode of, and Brittany might laugh at this because I think she was there that day. I did an entire episode of Project Joy where we were talking specifically about the joy in slowing things down.
Mm,
And I spent the entire episode speaking in this way just to see if it would cause a little uncomfortableness in the audience, because everybody's just in this constant go go go, fast fast fast, do fix fix fix,
yeah,
and sometimes we just need to just be
yeah.
for just a minute, and slow things down a little bit.
It's so
um
funny, because I say everything does kind of connect to everything in its
mhm,
own weird sort of way. It's just about how you're looking at it and perceiving it.
yeah.
But would you see a person down the road to go to their favorite restaurant, eat as fast as they can, and zoom back home?
Probably not.
Yeah, I think that would be a nightmare because you're
Yeah.
rushing to to do what? To get through your experience as fast
Right.
as you can.
Right.
And so when people are in that go, go, go mentality, right, they're actually not getting the lessons that are
Mm,
necessary to get them out of that. So it's
yeah.
okay. Every time I put this fire out. Oh, I'm gonna put this fire out. Oh, I'm gonna put this fire out. Oh, I'm gonna put this fire out. How about step back, look at the bigger picture, and say, how do I put out more fires with using less energy?
Mm, yeah. And I'm just thinking about this too. It's literally hitting me because we had a conversation about this recently as well, about because I recognized in me that in times in my life when I've been really unhappy, I have piled as much on my plate as I possibly can, because when I do that, I don't have to pay attention to anything. I can literally just, pick and do. So I'm just thinking about that in the example that you gave about rushing to the restaurant, hurry up and eat and rush home.
Mhm.
You have to, I mean, to me, I'm looking at this going like, the person may be unhappy as well if they're doing that much rush rush rush, go go go, do all the time. It could be a means of ignoring some of the things that they don't want to deal with, or a level of unhappiness or something else going on there. That because if you stay that busy and going constantly, then you don't have to pay attention to the mindfulness, the little details and things like that, right?
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. Just been like, man, I don't like this situation. Let me just take some action and put some
Yeah.
pressure on myself so I don't
Yeah.
have to face it.
Oh, I'm good at that too. I'm really good at that too.
I've been there before. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to recognize those things about ourselves, of going like, man, like I wasn't doing all of those things because it made me happy,
Yeah,
or it fulfilled something, or I was successful doing it. I was doing it because it was a great way to ignore all of things that were making me miserable.
yeah. And we're human beings going through a human experience.
Yeah.
I say sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is letting them know that they've been there and they've also have the solution to get out of it,
Mm,
and they can share it with others.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk about the work that you do specifically, and as an entrepreneur, and you help entrepreneurs to become successful. Tell me a little bit about your company and what specifically you do to help entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so we actually niched down even more, focused on moving company owners
Mm.
specifically. We do want to expand to entrepreneurs in general, but we're really focusing on moving company owners because my business partner is a moving company. Like, he owns his own moving company, and he's
Oh,
done amazing with what he does. Now, here's where it gets crazy. He has 12 kids. So I was just, yeah,
what?
I know.
That's double. That's double what I have. That's
I
hard
was
to
just,
beat.
I was just kind of like, huh, that is interesting. But what's so good about that? You get very, very good at external systems.
Yes, you
Very
do.
good at external systems. And so we put systems in place to really help these moving company owners get their time back, because that's the
Mm,
name of the game. Is you build this business and you have this dream and you're looking to create impact, and eventually you build it too big for only you to handle, and it starts pulling you and throwing you all over the place, and because you didn't structure your team right, you didn't put the foundations in place right, you didn't know what you were doing. And everyone goes through that process if they don't have the mentorship or the coaching as they're going through it. um and so we're going to help them through that process so that they don't make the mistakes, honestly, that he made on his
mm,
journey and that I made too, because I went through my own set of mistakes going
yeah.
through my process and my own learning lessons.
Yeah. I'm personally, as someone who just moved a couple months ago, I'm very glad that you're working with who you're working with right now, because people need help.
Yeah, yeah.
They just do.
Hmm.
That's all
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you
100%.
about that. I cannot tell you how many phone calls I did not receive back,
Hmm.
how many, like, just insane quotes without giving a reason why their like prices are four times higher than the other ones. Just, I mean, people need help, Cliff, and
Yeah,
I'm glad
yeah.
someone's there to help
Yeah,
them.
it's a process indeed. And
Yeah.
what's super cool, because when it's done right, everybody wins.
Mm,
That's the beauty of it. Is when you know, like, when the business owner knows why they're doing what they're doing, and they actually have the plan in place, and they're explaining the process correctly to the people that they're working with, everybody wins that journey.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, but we don't always get to work with those kind of people. So I'm glad there's somebody out there doing it. When you go to expand, what do you envision expanding to? Like, what types of businesses?
Yeah, so I really want to be able to work with any entrepreneur. The reason being, they're usually impact driven people.
Mhm.
They did it for something bigger than just the money. Because
Right.
if they just wanted to get money, you can get money working at a good enough job. Build up a skill set in that process.
Right.
But entrepreneurs, they're really impact driven. And one reason I love ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson is what he created and how he created that process, and he's got a bunch of excited people together. But what was interesting, um, the number one factor that was stopping entrepreneurs was imposter syndrome,
Mm,
and that was very shocking to me,
yeah.
coming from my background. But I kind of get it because I went through my own fear journey that I just busted through it and went nuts after I busted through it, and they're like, I can do anything, fight inside of a cage, whatever, speak in front of people, that's easy. Um, so it's really like imposter syndrome. It's something that we're creating, and
Mhm.
in creating, we are creating our reality. And in creating our reality, it's creating this weird feedback loop. Just be like, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough. And if we change that feedback loop around, not only are these entrepreneurs going to help themselves internally, but they're really going to help their audience to a whole new level because they're going to serve at a higher level. So that
Right.
those are the people that I want to work with.
So have you ever dealt with that yourself? Like, have you ever had a moment where where you said, "Who am I to?" Like, have you ever felt that?
That's a great question. 3 years old. I wanted to get on this Ghostbuster ride, and this was like at a carnival, and my biological dad wouldn't get on the Ghostbuster ride with me,
Mhm.
so I was too afraid to get on it. Like, just too scared. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, ghosts coming
Yeah.
out, and what 3-year-olds think. And I remember not getting on that ride, and I was actually angry that I didn't get to experience the ride. And from there, I was like, I will never let fear stop me from doing what I want. I won't let it stop me. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not always easy to act through fear, but
Right.
but I will say this. The hardest time's the first time.
Hmm.
And once you get through it again and again and again, it gets easier and easier and easier. And the really cool thing, as you up the ante, like, I don't know, stepping inside of a cage and getting punched and kicked and kneed, um, other fears don't become that, they're not that big anymore. Like public speaking. Public speaking is considered a big fear for a lot of people because it's like, oh, I'm going to mess up. Like, oh, they're not going to punch me in the face. So as long as I just come out and show up and give them my best, and hopefully they hear it, and hopefully the message resonates with them. And if it doesn't, I'll do better next time.
Yeah.
But it's not so scary.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said in that for acting, authentically or being authentic because I've shared before with my audience that I in college I dropped out of speech.
Hmm.
Clearly, I don't have any issues
Hmm.
speaking to
Yeah.
people or having conversations, but I think part of my challenge with that class was that the professor would you would speak what they told you to speak about. So
Hmm.
I had a difficult time going up there to talk about something that one I had zero interest in.
Hmm.
I don't want to do what I don't want to do. Go
Yeah.
figure.
Yeah.
I had zero interest in it, but it was also like I just struggled to act like and speak like I had authority on something that I knew nothing about. True, like yes, I could go and learn a little bit about it, but it wasn't like something that I was really knowledgeable about or passionate about or studied for many years or something like that. And
Hmm.
so I think the difference for me now in what I do is like I don't have a guest on that I don't feel also passionate about their message. I don't have a topic that I feel like I'm not educated enough on to where or at least be able to hold space to have an intelligent conversation on. And
Hmm.
so I think there's such a huge difference between, there's something to be said for feeling comfortable about what you're doing and being authentic in what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we're just always going through the process.
Yeah.
We're going through what our process is, what
Yeah.
makes work, what works for us. Um, and I say that to say sometimes I will force things
Mm,
so I can learn whatever lesson I want to learn, or because I just want to do it. you know. So you were just acting in yourself of not wanting to do this. You just didn't want
Right.
to do it. So as a professor, like I'm just thinking through the professor's lens. Um, my goal would be to influence you in a way that you did want to do it.
Right.
If I was the teacher, like that's how I
Right.
think about it. Like, how do I influence this person? Because it's a great skill set to have. Um, but at the same time, you practice the skill set in a different way, and it
Mm.
worked for you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I love that, because that's a tip that I feel like anybody could use across the board, is figuring out like how you could influence the other person. And
Mhm.
if she would have said to me, you know, this is going, like, taking something that was important to me and say this is going to positively influence you in this area of your life, I would have been like, oh, okay, fine, I won't drop out.
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
not
no,
but that's not how it
100%.
was. It was just, she was very, just wasn't my favorite professor.
Yeah, no, and sometimes that is the lesson. I'll tell you this. Well, you know what's super funny? So I thought I was getting really, really lucky on my
Uh-huh.
journey. Like I just thought, like, man, I'm so lucky. I got this. I got this. I got this.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing, like, oh, it has nothing to do with luck. It's laws, just like gravity. It's a law.
Mm.
And so one of those things, um, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like that's just what I'm gonna do. Like I'm not gonna
Right.
like, oh well, I got to do it because other people are telling. No, I don't have to do anything. And this
Right.
was as a kid. As a kid, you know.
I could
So
see that, Cliff. I
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
going to say it,
So
but I
it's
could
just
see
like
that.
I'm gonna do this over here. And my dad got really, really good at making things my idea. Cause
Mm.
can you hear me still?
Yep.
Because I got someone calling me now.
You're good.
Let me hang this up real quick. Okay, so I got really, really good at just going after the things that I wanted on my
Mm.
journey. Now, here's where it got super interesting. People, and I'm generalizing, so I'm not saying everybody's this
Yeah.
way by any means. People want the best for you as long as it's not better than what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow, that really struck a chord because I see that as being very real, very consistently.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other kicker is no one's doing better than me or worse than me. It's all a perception. It's all perception. So when a person talks about, I got this, and this, all right, well, I don't have those things, but I have this, and this. And so I can use whatever I want to use, and my people can also use whatever they want
Mm.
to use. Like you have skills that I don't have naturally. Like I will never be able to give birth, no matter how hard I try. No
What?
matter, you'll
If you
always
just put your mind to it.
you'll, you'll always beat me on that. And even like, just believe, Cliff. Like, I think she's got me.
Well, I'm
Just,
disappointed in your mindset right now, sir.
and so when you can look at it and just say, okay, well, what is it that you do have? I didn't realize the reason I feel so empowered is because I am going to do what I want to do, and I
Mm.
am going to hang out with the people that I want to hang out with, and that's the easiest, most powerful thing that you can do as a human being. Just say, who do you want to be? Why do you want to be it? And how are you being it?
Yeah. Yeah. Brittany's appalled that you can't give birth. She which you had so much
I
authority
tried.
until that moment,
I
Cliff. Like you
tried.
just lost it. No, I love that though. I think that's when I really, like, I do Project Joy in the mornings, my morning show every Monday through Friday. And I think that's really such a big moment for me of when I really started to connect the dots with joy in my life, was when I said that very thing. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, and I know, and I say that knowing that there are folks that are watching this who are in a job that maybe they hate, They might be in a relationship that they don't like. I get that it's complicated is what I'm trying to say. I get that it's
Mhm.
not always a situation where you can just drop it and go because your family needs a place to sleep at
Yeah.
night. I
Yeah.
get that part of it. But I also like there you still always have that power of choice at the
Mhm.
end of the day of how you're going to see things and how you're going to process things. Is there anything that you do in particular to keep yourself sort of in that moving forward growth positive mindset?
Oh yeah. This thing that we have is a garden.
Mm,
And so either we are taking care of our garden or we are letting our garden go to crap. That's just the way that it is. And asking yourself, like, okay, how are you taking care of your garden? How are you nurturing that garden? Well, it comes down to culture, right? Like, what culture are you around? When I hang out with positive, free flowing, solution thinking, problem solving people, I get better at doing all of those things. And so I just surround myself with people who are more like me, who are going to express and inspire and stretch.
mm,
And in one way, they are like me, and in another, they're not because they have things that I haven't obtained yet. So if I'm saying, okay, well, what is it that I do want? What do I want? Well, I'm going to go around those who have already gotten it. And if that's going after a big dream, a big desire, a big goal that hasn't been achieved yet, well, I'm going to go around those who have created big goals, big desires, big dreams that others said they couldn't achieve because they would give me great insights through that process.
yeah. Yeah. It makes sense to surround yourself. I mean, we hear about that all the time in the personal development world about surround yourself with the five people that you spend the most time with. I said that's why, I'm a child because I spend the most time with my kids. But yeah, I think that's so important that what you're filling your mind with, who you're spending time with. And I think when we talk about that, we're not I don't think any of us are saying, look, like you have to like get rid of everybody in your life that ever has a negative thought or whatever. But I think those boundaries are so important. And also at the same time choosing to be the light anyway, like
Yeah.
choosing to you might be that person that someone's going, hey, I want to spend time with them because they're positive and they have things that I aspire to be where they are.
Well, and what's so cool, because it goes back to the mastery to me,
Yeah.
where I talk about time and timing.
Mm,
I love chocolate chip cookies like the next person, and I love my alcohol when it's time to have it.
yeah.
I don't drink alcohol very often. I
Hmm.
probably drink it every 3 to 4 months,
Mm,
right? But I enjoy it when I have it, and I also enjoy not having it. I like the way I feel when I don't have it, and I like the way I feel when I do have it.
yeah.
But I'm gonna have it at a certain time. So when I was a fighter, right, I wasn't going like, all right, I'm fighting in 2 days. Let's go drink. Like it just the timing's kind of off. Like maybe if I wait until after the fight,
Yeah.
then I go drink and celebrate. The same is true in business. Like I'm not like, all right, this is about to be one of the biggest partnerships that I've ever had. I think I'm gonna go drink and get hungover. Like it's just like the timing's kind of off.
Yeah.
So I would never, I would never tell a person, hey, you can't have things. No, you can have it all.
Yeah.
It's just about figuring out when to have those things.
Right.
Have them at the
Right.
appropriate time.
I'm glad you kept using the alcohol I think because you were about to hurt my feelings with the cookies.
I love me some
I
cookies
was
too.
gonna get
Ooh,
upset. It was
I
gonna go
love,
the other way.
I love me some cookies. Yes.
I love that. I love that. Well, what are you working on right now, Cliff? I know you're doing the stuff with the moving company. Like, what's your next steps? Like, what are you striving to do in the near future?
Yeah, yeah. So the near future for me, we want to get our system so streamlined and tightened um, that it's a licensing process
Mm,
for other business owners because we want to create a business in a box where they can
interesting.
see the whole framework right in front of them. and we can take them through whatever process they need to be taken through. Also, if they do need side assistance like coaching or consulting, we
Mm,
can support them at the highest level with that as well.
yeah.
So that's going to be the next big steps for us.
That'll be awesome. That'll be
Yeah.
awesome. And so are you, I know you're wanting to work with entrepreneurs and stuff. Are you dipping your toes into that now? Are you opposed to someone going, "Hey Cliff, I like your vibe. Let's."
Yeah, I will connect with people because I'm also one of those people who say, where did they find me?
Yeah.
And so if they find me like, oh, I saw you on My Way podcast, like, all
Yeah.
right, great. If they find me, oh, I found you on such and such, then I gotta be a little bit careful. It depends. It depends where they
You
find
have
me.
so much trust in me,
Yeah,
Cliff. I'm like,
it,
oh
it
Lord. I feel
it
the
depends where they find
responsibility.
me.
That imposter syndrome is starting to weigh heavily now.
I would look, because I think about what you have, right?
Yeah.
You talk about being outside of the box.
Yeah.
You're attracting a certain audience,
Yeah.
right? You're not attracting people who are just hating on the world. Like they wouldn't want to listen to this. They
Well,
just
if they
wouldn't want to
do,
listen to it.
they're when they come, they're not here long. I'll tell
Yeah,
you that
yeah.
much.
They wouldn't listen this far in. Just
Yeah,
be like, oh, I'm gonna get that clip.
especially if my Project Joy morning people, like that's a special breed of people. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we they can't. You can only, especially this morning's conversation. Whoo! You, if you didn't like me then, you can't. You don't like me. That's what it is.
So yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah,
Is because I even I will do free coaching sessions just so people can get a feel of how I show up. Because
yeah.
I know if I show up powerfully for them, not only have I created a friend for life through that process, um, they remember me and they talk to
Mm,
me about other people who I can support along the journey.
yeah. Other than you being a fighter in your past life, why do you call yourself a competitive edge specialist?
I changed it, but the reason I even started with competitive
Mm,
edge specialist, uh, I talk people to their edge,
mm.
and then I give them the desire to jump because I'm not going to push them in.
I
Like
was gonna say, are you
yeah,
gonna push them off once they
yeah,
get there?
yeah. I'm not going to be the one doing the pushing, unless they really want me to. Unless
Yeah.
they're like,
Sometimes
I
we need a
I
little.
yeah, sometimes we do. And so if they're like, you want me to push you? Because I do like pushing people off the edge. I'm not going to lie. That is part of my personality. When we talk about like, I hope I'm a kind person. Look, you're a kind person if you want the best for people.
Yeah.
Now, are they taking action on the thing that are going to be the best for them? No, absolutely
Mm.
not. Because if we were just taking action on what would be best for us, we'd all be millionaires, have amazing abs, and be in great shape with productivity. Like we'd have everything streamlined.
Yeah.
No, our minds are messy. They're crazy. So it's just like, all right, how do I do the least with as little effort as possible
Yeah.
and just survive? Our minds want to survive. Now, our souls are another thing altogether. Our
Hmm.
souls want to thrive. They want
Yeah.
to drive. They want to experience. They want to go as far as they can go. And it's like there's that tug of war of like, all right, just stay safe. Just stay safe.
Right.
And I shut my mind up a long time ago, and my
Yeah.
mind's just along for the ride. Like, all right, he's gonna do what he wants to do anyway.
Yeah. Again, I can see that.
Yeah.
There's no Cliff does what he wants to do. If you didn't notice already, the things we learn here on this show. So I have a final question that I like to ask everybody that comes on the show, because sometimes that doing what we want to do and being who we are is a challenge for people, and sometimes we might have someone that's watching the show that says, listen, this sounds great. The idea of doing the business the way that I want to do it sounds great, but I feel like I can't do things my way. What would you tell them?
Okay. Ask yourself when's the last time you really have felt alive, like really, really felt alive, and then ask yourself what steps did I do to feel that? Because I guarantee that it was somewhere out of your comfort zone, something somewhere. And so the laws are the laws. Just like I said, I thought I've been getting lucky. I wasn't lucky. I was just following a law, stepping into a new frame of mastery on a regular basis. Sometimes trying to eat the whole elephant and choking on it a little bit, but I've always got it out and figured out like, yeah, all right, I got to cut it up in a little bit smaller bite-sized pieces, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it because I like the experience that I get. I like to experience life and experience the joys of life. So yeah, there's a great individual in you, and greatness is stepping out of your comfort zone.
I love that. I love that. So good. I put Cliff's LinkedIn link in the comments for you guys. You can also see it scrolling there in the bottom, and it will be in the show notes as well. We want everybody to make sure that if you feel the vibe, if you love what Clifford is doing in the world, we would love for you to connect him over on a LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate the audience. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so thankful that all of you have hung out with us tonight. I want to remind you that Project Joy is on tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, the Jacksons will be on tomorrow evening. You can catch the replay of the Royal Council. You can catch tomorrow night. And I think Cliff may have been on that episode. I'm not sure, but you can check that out anyway at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to do things your way. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, everybody.